Welcome back to another episode of On a Mission. I'm your host, Dr. Wendy Norfleet with Norfleet Integrated Solutions, and it's my pleasure to have with me today John Brushwood with Turbopower International. Welcome, John.
Thank you, Wendy.
So, John, tell me a little bit about yourself.
Well, I was born in Tampa.
Okay. So not too far.
Yeah, and I spent my first 5 years here in Florida. And I moved overseas, my father being in the service.
Okay.
And I was overseas for about 15 years, and primarily the Far East. And I came back here to go to school. I went to South Florida and got my training as a chemical engineer.
Oh, wow.
And I had proceeded working for a number of large organizations, GE and Westinghouse, was no longer around. But, so that's basically what I've done. I've got a family of four grown kids already, and 6 grandchildren, all girls.
Oh, they probably got you wrapped around their little fingers.
Yes.
So what made you do chemical engineering?
My high school teacher, Dr. Gunther, took an interest in me and showed me a lot of things that I found amazing. And I've been addicted to it ever since high school.
Wow, isn't it amazing? Because I have one teacher that I always remember too. So isn't it amazing how we get that one or two teacher that does just something, they see something in us and pour into us and, just help push us forward.
Yes.
So how did you get connected with Turbopower International?
I had a decision, I guess, about 10 years ago, whether or not I want to retire. And I said, no, I like what I'm doing.
Okay.
And so I created this business of Turbopower International, and started calling and networking with my colleagues. And before I knew it, they were asking me to do jobs in their power plants.
Okay, wow. So, you saw a need and you filled it, right?
Absolutely.
So one of the things, there's a lot of debate about renewable energies, but I'm going to put it to you since you're the expert. Does renewable energy have a future here in Florida?
Absolutely.
Okay.
You're seeing it in person now. The electric vehicles, for example, that's a transition over into renewable energy. We have several upstart companies, newly started companies here in Florida that are producing biofuels and are doing quite good at it. So, yes, I think in Florida here we have a good future. We don't have much wind energy. We have lots of solar.
Yeah, we have a lot of solar. You're right. Yeah. I know I'm from Michigan, so as you go through certain parts of Michigan, you see all the wind, and it's like really powered. Especially if you go toward Holland and some other places, you see the wind.
The wind turbines, yes.
Yeah, I just kind of drew blank. But wind turbines, we have a lot of those. So yes.
Well, yeah, I believe it's going to be a tough transition. The alternatives we have are much more expensive than our petroleum-based economy today. Wow. And so you're going to have some pain along the way. But once we stop using fossil fuels, we're going to have to face up to where we're going to produce all this electricity. How are we going to produce it?
Do it? So do you think that, I know there's no right answer to that, but do you think that if the government possibly subsidizes it initially as a transition, and people still not using it? Well, they're using it though.
Well,
to some extent.
The Inflation Reduction Act.
Oh, okay, and so that was for that, huh?
Yeah, there was over $300 million in there for renewable energy.
Oh, wow. And
it did not get much publicity, but yes, it's being heavily subsidized, particularly in Europe. There's one government in South America that I'm trying to lobby with the company down there to get some subsidies for CO2 recovery in power plants.
Oh, wow.
That's another thing that we're going to be seeing. The concept of the power plant is going to fade away, and you're going to have these large complexes, chemical plants that produce power on the side. And so I think the day of the old power plant is nearing the end.
Well, I've heard some stories about the old power plants, so it might be time for them to come to an end. So what do you tell people? This is your field, and I know you said renewable energy has a place, and it's just the transition may be a little bit tough. But what do you tell people if they ask you, well, why should we? It's tough, but why should we do it?
Well, there's climate change. That's everyone heard about climate change, and it's getting worse. And so it has a direct impact on everybody. The weather and all the storms we're getting now, much more frequent, much more severe. We're going to have to look at how we are creating our energy and all the emissions that we're putting out. The CO2 is one of the biggest culprits. It's called a greenhouse gas, and it makes the weather, it makes the air warmer.
Right. It
Okay?
makes it around, especially around, because I know a lot of times people don't want to live within a certain radius of those facilities.
Yes, and I don't blame them.
I know.
I know what goes on inside.
Yeah, I have heard the stories. I don't want to do it. And so, do you go in and do assessments for companies?
I have done that. I've done 2 plant assessments for insurance reasons. Both of them in Peru. I mainly get involved whenever there is a forced outage
Okay.
and the plant goes down. Keep in mind that many of these power plants have got billions of dollars in bonds. And if your power plant's down, you have no way paying those.
Right.
And so you got to get somebody in there quick
to come and assess this
and get it
what's
back
going on.
up
Okay.
so they get the revenue back in. A typical power plant would bring in maybe $20, $30 million a day.
Wow.
In
So I
electricity
can see
sales.
why you're in demand then. I didn't realize all this went on behind the scenes. It's just
Well,
fascinating.
they want it to be transparent to
Right.
everyone. For example, all the electricity people take for granted, but you go back 100 years and see what it takes to travel 20 miles.
Wow.
And,
I never really thought about
and
that.
the energy it takes, and how easy it is. We just hop in a car today and
Right.
and
And
we use
go.
up.
We turn our lights on. We do this, and
we take it
don't
for
think
granted.
about it. Right. We do. We probably
But
do.
once all that disappears, people will not take it for granted.
Well, I'm hoping you and people like you come figure out a solution for us.
Thank you.
But I really appreciate you sharing this knowledge with us. It's fascinating, and thank you.
I find it fascinating, and it keeps me going, and I think it actually provides a little bit of longevity for me.
Well, good. Especially if you love what you do, then you live
Absolutely.
longer, right?
Yes.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us. I'm sure that you learned a lot about turbo power too. So we'll see you next time on Buzz TV.